In this project, we'll be painting this scene of a proud dinosaur mother with her hatchlings in oil paint. This dinosaur is loosely based on the Allosauride family of theropod dinosaurs in regards to the head, arms and body shape. Let me also say that this is not supposed to be an academic reconstruction, rather just for fun. So with that in mind, let's get into it. This project is being created on a 1 metre by 75 centimetre canvas. The first step is to create a smooth surface. We do this for a couple of reasons. The first is because we are glazing the colour, and glazing is a lot more effective if the thin top coat doesn't sit in the hollows of the canvas. And the second is we are drawing up the dinosaur with fine acrylic marker, and the line is more clean and smooth on the surface. Some people use a number of coats of gesso, sanding in between those coats. In this case, we'll be using a single coat of modelling paste. And I apply this with an old concrete float. Then use a large offset palette knife for the final smoothing, and then allow this all to dry. Next, we tint the canvas. In this case with acrylic lemon yellow paint. We chose yellow because that is the predominant colour in the piece, and it will make any colours painted over it deeper and richer. Acrylic provides a stable base for oil paint. To draw up the dinosaurs, we can refer to the outline that can be found on our website. There is a rough grid over the reference so that the dimensions will be easier to get right. We use charcoal to draw up the grid as it's easier to remove than graphite. Still, make sure the lines are very faint. The dinosaurs are then drawn in with graphite, and we use one of these acrylic markers to draw in the outlines. This is just a stronger line, as some of the outline in graphic will be lost when the background is laid in around it. The cycads can then be painted in with that hooker's green. There is one massive tree behind the dinosaur that we lay in with hooker's green acrylic. At this point, the second reference sheet can be used to refer to as well. We will be adding the oil paint over the top of this, so this is really just an underpainting. White can be concentrated in the middle of the canvas to suggest sun peeking through the morning fog. The foliage near the bottom of the canvas is then laid in with sap green and permanent green. Permanent green is made from a single pigment, PG7. This is also called phthalo green. Phthalo green has a bluish green tone, is quite dark but also has some translucence about it, and it has great tinting power. The colour is gently blended up into the left-hand corner. We can then paint in the background, so squeeze out some olive green, permanent green, sap green, lemon yellow, phthalo blue, light green, titanium white and brilliant red. We start by laying in the yellow to the green mid-area of the canvas. One thing to keep in mind is to ensure that the coat is kept thin, or in other words, stretch it out as far as you can. This way, blends are smoother and easier to control. The best brush to use is an abstract expression brush. This is because it is soft yet firm, and oil paint being quite stiff in its consistency means it can be thinly applied. Phthalo green has a bluish green tone, is quite dark but also has some translucence about it, and it has great tinting power. The colour is gently blended up into the left-hand corner. We can then start on the right side of the canvas, beginning with the top right corner. Mix a touch of phthalo blue with lots of titanium white to create a light blue, and lay this into the corner. move across and down the canvas, we add more yellow, and then more white, as we move closer to the centre of the canvas. Once the main background colour is laid in, we lay in the trees. Some can be laid in quite dark, and to suggest trees in the distance, we lay them in very lightly. We can then lay in the epiphytes into the edge of the tree. The last step is to dry brush some orange into the area of the tree where the white spot lies. To create a realistic look to our dinosaur, we render them in a monochromatic tone, using titanium white and ivory black. In painting terms, this is called a grisaille. Use that reference sheet again to work out where the shadows lie. The easiest way I have found to create a grisaille is to lay down a very thin coat of titanium white over the entire subject. And then go into the areas of shadow with a dry brush charged with black. It's best to build the tone up slowly. Ultra darks can then be put in and blended out to grey. If our grisaille is touch dry, we can draw up where we want our markings to lie. Use a water-based felt tip pen for this. We then have to allow the grisaille to dry. If it has been applied thinly, as it should be, it will take from 3 to 5 days to become touch dry. It needs to be dry before the touch to glaze subsequent layers on top. We can then glaze, and this will be done in oil paint. So squeeze out some orange, yellow deep, lemon yellow, burnt umber and phthalo blue. Next, open up a bottle of refined linseed oil medium, decanter a little bit into the lid and sit it on your palette. Add some oil to each colour and mix. We started at the front of our dinosaur and the colour on the snout was orange, moving to yellow and then to phthalo blue on the tail. When the phthalo blue of the tail meets the yellow on the body, a beautiful green is created. We leave a slight gap between the colour and blend them together so they transition. Once we have finished with the grisaille, and while it is drying, we mix some sand texture medium into some acrylic titanium paint and tint it with acrylic yellow ochre and some acrylic burnt umber. Mix this with a palette knife and apply it with a Taklon brush. The same steps are taken for the hatchlings, only we created a series of spots instead of stripes. The piece is essentially finished, but there is always little areas that need to be added or refined. Well, thanks for watching. We had a lot of fun creating this painting, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? We hope you have gained some inspiration at least. Stay tuned because we have some exciting projects in the pipeline. Remember, above all else, to stay creative.